Boy, have we got a doozy for you folks today. A red hot vulnerability hitting the internet. Stay tuned, we'll talk about it.
Welcome to Tech Topics brought to you by Cybervenger. We help keep small businesses stay protected and compliant with cutting-edge cybersecurity and IT solutions.
2024 6387. It affects anybody running OpenSSH on Linux platform specifically. Now, it doesn't mention in the CVE or anywhere else I've seen that this affects Windows. Windows can also run OpenSSH servers. Windows 10 and I think 2022 and all that have an implementation OpenSSH built in, so you can run SSH servers that way. The bug allows a remote attacker to execute remote code abusing Linux libraries. So theoretically, it shouldn't affect Windows, but I thought of a scenario where it might. Now, if you're in this scenario, shame on you already, but if you're running an older version of, say, Windows 7 and you've got an OpenSSH implementation for Linux, and you're using like Cygwin, which is a Linux library emulator from Windows to run Linux code natively on Windows, or maybe if you're running Wine or something like that in a wrapper like that. So just because you have Windows doesn't automatically mean that you're not vulnerable. Probably not vulnerable, I think would be a fair thing to say. But if you are in one of those weird scenarios where running Linux libraries to emulate a Linux version of OpenSSH, you may yet be vulnerable. So think about that. But I looked at Red Hat, Ubuntu, and I didn't see any patches available at the time of this recording. So this is an unpatched vulnerability. And it's a bad one. Basically, you can execute any code that you want on the system as root without logging in. There is a workaround, fortunately, but there's not a patch. Now, the workaround is not perfect. I've talked a lot about the security triad: confidentiality, integrity, availability. Right now, all three of those are at risk. But the workaround will solve two of them. You can make things, you protect confidentiality and integrity gain, which is huge, but availability, if you go, there's a value, and if you go to Ubuntu site, you can see the exact workaround, but you modify your SSH config on the Ubuntu server, and probably Red Hat as well, I think it's the same fix, and you change the login timeout to 0. It's the Grace login timeout that gets abused. It hangs there long enough, then it can try and remote execute code. But if you change it to 0, you could break down the server. It now becomes vulnerable to a DOS attack. But it's no longer able to be exploited to run arbitrary code, which is significant downgrading of the security problem that we're facing. So I would go do that. Now, here's the problem. It's not just your Ubuntu server or your Red Hat or CentOS, whatever you're running out there. It is also IoT devices. So if you've got a camera, security camera that you remote in to watch, or an HVAC system that you're controlling, or any other device out there, maybe you've got a temperature monitor controlling device, or some scientific equipment in your computer lab at your office that you communicate over SSH, it's probably running an implementation of OpenSSH servers. It's very popular and very widespread. There's millions of systems out there running this server. It will probably be vulnerable to this exploit. Now, the interesting thing is this exploit existed, 5 years ago. I forgot the exact date of the notes. It was a long time ago, more like 10 years ago. And then it recently got reintroduced in another patch. So if you're behind enough on your patching, you may be secure. Well, from this vulnerability. It's one of those trade-offs, darned if you do, darned if you don't. But yeah, I think in the coming weeks, coming days, I'm sure there'll be actual patches, and the correct thing to do will be to patch your stuff, and that will fix the problem. In the short term, you got to do a workaround. You got to modify the config. Don't forget to roll it back. But this is where it's really nice to have what I call a service catalog. You should have if you have something publicly facing on the internet, you should have an inventory of everything you own, every asset your organization has that's facing the internet and what it's doing. Times like this, you can quickly scan it and go, oh, I've got an SSH server here, here, and here. And then you could do a mini risk assessment as to what your threat level is based on what assets are exposed to this new vulnerability that didn't exist, or we didn't know existed anyway. That's very helpful to do. But it's also not external, it's internal, because you could have an internal attacker, right? It could be somebody parked across the street, Wi-Fiing in, on a guest password, and maybe there's SSH available on your guest access point, and that would be a way for them to escalate themselves. They can get in remote code, and they can stick themselves on a new SSD that they just created that gives them full rights to the whole network, and now they're in. or maybe they have some other access to the network at a guest level. Now they can use that to escalate their privileges. So this could be a big deal if we don't move on as an industry. So I think anybody watching this really needs to kind of pay attention to what assets they have out there that are running OpenSSH and Linux. And that combination, and maybe, as I said before, maybe even certain combinations of Windows and OpenSSH, although that's probably not realistically going to be very common. But I don't have a whole lot more details than that. I suggest everyone go Google CVE 2024-687 or 6387 and kind of read it and research all the details. This just came out yesterday. This is kind of red hot news, so I want to get this video out right away and warn people. Now that the video is produced, I have to go through my service catalog and see what's in there that needs to be patched and dealt with. So good luck to everyone.
Thanks for watching. We hope this video has provided valuable information to you. Be sure to share this video with other small business owners to spread the word about the importance of cybersecurity. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. If you want more information about cybersecurity, visit us at www.cybervenger.com.